Hey everybody, it's Friday, it's AMA time. I'm Kevin MURCKO, CEO here at CoinMetro. Figured I'd come on a bit early today, considering I assume we're going to see lots of questions. So, hey Rayman, how are you? You guys can give me a mic check if it's possible. Everything should be good. Just want to make sure it's good. So today we did miss, I think, 2 or 3 sessions of news over the last couple weeks here, but I'm not even going to try to get to news today. I think we're going to focus on questions. Like I said, I assume we're going to have a good amount, and I want to make sure we get full answers and people get all their questions in and they get all their questions answered. So I'm going to be here for however long it takes. Thank you, Raymond, to answer those questions. So if I get questions for half an hour, I'll be here in half an hour. If I get questions for an hour, I'll be here an hour. If I get questions for 2 hours, well, I'm going to be here for 2 hours. So I'm standing by for questions. I want to be. How are you? We're a bit early, so about 2 minutes early here. So we'll give time for some people to roll in. As usually, we end up either coming on time or slightly late. So. Hey, Daniel. Yeah, well, it could be 2 hours. It all depends. If it's 2 hours, if I get asked questions for 2 hours. If I get asked questions for 15 minutes, then, well, it's going to be a short one. Kevin, okay, here's a question. Let me pop this up on the screen for everybody. So Wannabe asking, Kevin, who is going to pay for the quant loss? Well, we are. Simple as that. There's always talk about, up to this point, obviously this never happened before at CoinMetro, and we're making sure it never happens again, but it did happen. And there's a lot of talk usually about, not your keys, not your coins, etc. I know lots of people that have actually been victims of spear phishing and phishing attacks and lost their assets. And when an individual loses their assets, there's no one to cover that loss except themselves. Centralized exchange, at least a well-run one, regulated or not, if they don't cover those losses, they go out of business. So whether it's a moral obligation or a legal obligation or obligation tied to their licensing, centralized exchanges that get hacked or have assets stolen from their cold or hot wallets, evidently, or at the end of the day, hold liability for those losses. So us, that's who. And we've already started a plan in order to make sure that everything is back to where it was. As you guys have seen, withdrawals are back online. We've already had some withdrawals on Quant, all paid, and back to business as usual. Do you think U.S. elections will bring massive dip in stock, and how is it going to affect crypto? So, all depends what happens with U.S. elections. For all the bad things that get said about the current incumbent president, which, to be honest, there's always bad things said about incumbent presidents, maybe different bad things that are being said about this president, but he is a Republican, and he's a first-term Republican. And while he may not follow the Republican mantra from 50 years ago, he is classified as, he did run as a Republican, which means that his policies, because he doesn't dictate his own policies, obviously, for the most part, he has policymakers inside of his cabinet and inside of his government. And they're Republican policymakers. Republican policies always look for free markets, less regulation, and they try and boost the economy. And that's why under Republican presidents, you normally see stock market gains outside of the normal stock market gains that we would see on average over, year on year. When you have a first-term president, most presidents serve 2 terms, unless they get shot in the face or they're Jimmy Carter. Pretty much almost all modern-day presidents end up or George W. Bush the first, actually. Actually, Carter might have served 2 terms. Anyway, most modern-day presidents and most presidents throughout history have served the equivalent of two modern-day terms, 8 years. So if we have a situation where Trump is not reelected, I think that's going to hit the market pretty hard. Essentially, you're going to have because what's going to happen is most of the institutional investors are going to know that regulations are going to be put back on the table. In January, when the Democrat Biden were to take office, he would roll back most of the rollbacks from regulation that Trump put in place almost immediately. This would create quite a heavy tax burden, as well as quite a heavy regulatory burden on lots of hedge funds, lots of brokers, lots of dealers, et cetera, lots of wealthy individuals. And so they're going to try to cash out before January so that they don't get stuck with that new bill. And that's going to cause, at the very least, a short-term 2 to 3 month absolute sell-off. And that would happen across equities in the US. It would happen across commodities. It would happen across even global markets. As the US market starts to fall, most people are not reading into the clues, are going to think it has something to do outside of just a new president coming into office, and you'll start to see, and that would definitely probably, in the short term, affect crypto prices for the same reason. Right now, that retail investors have gotten slightly smarter and started to look at correlation. There's lots of correlation now between US equities and crypto. Thus, at the end of the day, you're probably going to see, if we see a new president in the office, between November and at least January, potentially even longer, sell-offs. When you say we, you mean us? No, I mean CoinMetro. Simple as that. CoinMetro, not XEM holders. Your honest opinion on Poloniex: first, not closing deposits on PRQ, then selling old pre-swap PRQ tokens on Uni, and now refusing to honor trades made while trading was active. Yeah. All right. I'll be brutally honest on this one. Let's see. Maybe Poloniex is going to hear about it and not like it. But so them not closing deposits, when I believe, and this might not be accurate, but I've read that they actually told, or Parsec actually asked them to close deposits, and they said they would, and then didn't. Whether that was a technical mess up, whether that was on purpose, I don't know. Whether it was even asked of them, I haven't yet clarified either. But assuming what I think I know, I would say it's terrible behavior. And adding in the fact that they went and dumped pre-swap PRQ for a measly 58 Ether on clients or people sitting at Uniswap is absolutely just disgusting, to be quite honest. Poloniex was sold originally for 400 million. Justin Sun's investment squad bought it for, I think, 250 million. And they purposely, knowingly went and dumped an asset that they're supposed to be helping, because they are an exchange where it's listed, on unsuspected, mostly retail investors to gain 58 Ether. That's abhorrent. It's fucking ridiculous, to be honest. If that doesn't drive clients away from Poloniex, I'm not sure what would, to be quite honest. If it doesn't show the true nature, I mean, there's so many stories out now about Justin Sun across many different mediums. This is just another one, I guess, to add to the mix. And it's amazing to me that these businesses tend to get rewarded for some reason rather than getting penalized. It's another call for regulation, to be quite honest. Because at the end of the day, these type of things would never happen in a regulated market. And if they did, they would be severely punished. And refusing to honor trades made because of their mistake to stop deposits is also abhorrent. It's not as bad as them dumping pre-swap PRQ tokens, because look, at the end of the day, I've been through a lot of disputes between broker and client. And I've been in disputes where me, as the broker in my FX days, I was actually on the client side, but liquidity providers wouldn't fill trades, or would fill a trade and then go back and amend it and say, for whatever reason, is that because it was toxic flow, because it's against their TOS. Those things happen way too often, even in a regulated market. But the fact that they did this, they should own up to the fact that they didn't, whether they were told to do it or not. It's pretty obvious that you don't want outside assets coming into your exchange on purpose. because it's going to intermingle with the old assets. And then when the swap happens, you're not going to know which assets are which. And even when you do know, what do you do to those trades? So they should take ownership of that. They're a pretty big company with a pretty big, supposedly pretty big amount of volume every day, making a pretty big amount of money. I think they should own up and pay out. But looking at what they've done so far, I think they're pieces of shit. I mean, I think there's no other way to put it. I mean, I guess you can throw some sugar on it and call them bad actors. But if I was hanging around here, between us friends, I would call them pieces of shit, because I think that's what they are. CoinMetro bond, would it be still valid if one want to mergate? Yeah, sorry, I can't even read your name because it's in Asian characters, but I don't really know what you're trying to ask me here. If you're asking me if the CoinMetro bond will still be on, yes, 100%. And I don't know, I think you mean migrate, but I don't need migrate from what, I guess. If you're talking about, I don't know, selling XCM to get into the bond, I guess theoretically that's possible. I'm not sure that's necessarily a great idea, because at the end of the bond, you're either going to be converted into equity or you're going to be converted into XCM at a higher price. So if you're looking just to hold XCM, it doesn't make much sense to sell XCM to get into the bond. If you're looking to gain equity ownership, and obviously the interest over those 2 years, then, I guess. But would we have, if you're also asking if we have some direct swap between, let's say, bond and XCM, like if that'll, no, that won't be something that'll be offered, because obviously we don't want to affect the XCM book. And to be honest, it doesn't make much sense, as I just explained, for someone to sell XCM to get into the bond if their goal is to hold XCM. Have you gotten clarity on USD? I got a message that said they're still following up internally on their side, on the provider side, and trying to get this form that we need in order to move forward. So no new clarity yet. This is obviously a US-based service provider, so it's just now, and they're, I think, Pacific Coast. So it's still quite early in the morning, but in a few hours, I should get hopefully some additional information. Like I said, on our side, ready to roll. What we have done, we've redone the entire deposit and withdrawal flow as well. Looks substantially better. The UX is better. We've also added in all the components for USD. Right now, the deposit flow is on our testing environment. Withdrawal flow is supposed to go on there next. It's supposed to be ready next week. What we may do if we don't get that document today is, rather than continually wait for it and just sit waiting, we will finish out the deposit and withdrawal flow and roll out USD deposit and withdrawal at the end of next week when the withdrawal flow is ready. And then right after that, the next week would be the bond. So it's still, so yes, it's delayed in terms of, we thought we were going to launch it earlier, but from a tech side, we've been ready for quite some time. We did get an answer to that question that we had, which was about this kind of ambiguity between papering just depositing clients, papering withdrawing clients, papering people on their first attempt to use USD on either side. We got a response to that, and we fixed it on our side to coincide with the response we got. So that's also done. Simply waiting on this form to sign so they can greenlight us as far as the service provider goes. They are doing two things from their own statements: rolling back orders, giving USDT back, and the other, giving users pre-swap tokens, even though they were buying the new tokens in good faith. Look, there's so much to unravel here, to be honest. Rolling back orders. There should be no need to roll back orders if they hadn't let deposits in. They should also know what deposits came in. It's pretty clear. They're supposed to be KYC in clients. They should know what client account that those are. They should be able. So even if they rolled back orders of people selling old PRQ, then okay, that I don't see as so shitty. Because people that made a ton of money would just get back the money they started with. So there's no real loss. There's a loss of potential fake profits, but there's no loss to actual capital. And that's okay. You might not like it. You might think that that's a terrible move, and that, oh, I've seen people say it's a free market. I was smart enough to do it. I should keep my money. Well, there's the same thing in saying, I have a bot that can front run news, because I get the news 1 second before everybody else, and I can front run everybody. and basically cause market manipulation. I'm smarter than everybody else. I should keep my profits. Well, what if that's to the detriment of millions and millions of other traders? So that's an argument that's just a philosophical argument, and you can have that one for hours. So I'm not going to get into that one. But giving them old tokens back is absolutely meaningless. All they're doing is going to perpetuate the old market to continue, and they're going to perpetuate the same problem. People will get the old tokens, withdraw them, try to go to Uniswap, sell them, get dumped on, price will fluctuate like crazy. People will see that and not know which parsec is the actual parsec they should be trading. So they're not helping the situation in any way, shape, or form, and it's pretty obvious that they wouldn't be helping it. I'm not sure why they don't see that. Does this hack have any effects on Q4 roadmap? I like how you put hack. Look, I don't like to use the word hack. I know people, man, you can look up the word hack, whatever, Wikipedia or whatever. But this was an intrusion on one single workstation. So it wasn't a hack on CoinMetro per se. It was a hack on at the very least on a single workstation, which led to access to the front end of our system. They didn't hack our system. They didn't get into our infrastructure per se. But anyway, I have access to it. So there's been a couple days delay, obviously 3, 4, or 5 days, because our CTO and a lot of other people in the company, myself included, finance, et cetera, have been focused on getting everything back up and running and making sure we close any holes that existed or that potentially could exist in the future. And so obviously that's about 5 days worth of delay. In fact, the bond is now scheduled for the 21st or 22nd, which is roughly 5 business days after it was initially scheduled to go live. So it has caused a slight delay, but that delay will get eaten up over time. We've already removed a few things and moved a few things around on the roadmap. Not removed, let's say, not removed updates from the roadmap, but basically carved them on the ends a little bit, taking certain things out of those updates to make sure that we stay on track. So over time, I think the delay will get eaten up. So no substantial delay, and probably no delay at all as we move more into Q4. Hey, Daniel. Yeah, well, okay, I see that you got to confirm by Poloniex, but I'm not sure that means it. I've never dealt with Poloniex, so Poloniex, whatever. So I can't really comment. But I know I've dealt with very legitimate companies where I ask 10 people a question internally and I get 17 different answers. Don't ask me how that's possible, but it happens. I don't know. Anyway, I gave you my opinion, and to be honest, there's so many different. Some of the things they're doing are kind of textbook broker options based on violation of TOS or whatever. I noticed they updated their TOS midstream as well to include forks, which this wasn't even a fork. But anyway, it was a swap. So yeah, I don't know. Let me keep going on these questions. We'll see if we get another one on the subject. Can you explain clearly when USD will be listed, please? As clear as I can possibly state, we're waiting on the service provider to provide one additional document to us that I need to sign in order for them to activate specific policies so they can greenlight us on their side. We have everything ready on our side to move forward. We're waiting on the service provider to send this document for me to sign it, for them to approve it. How it will roll out is that we will make an announcement that USD deposits are now online. Deposits will go online. At the same time, essentially withdrawals will be active as well, though obviously from day one, there'll be no money in to be able to go out. But at the same time, deposits and withdrawals will go live. The first interaction you have with USD, first of all, it's only going to go live initially for US residents. So US residents, ACH domestic wire. When it goes live, the first time you use it, the first time you go to make a deposit, you'll click on a button, you'll agree to some terms. Those terms, when you click on it, you'll be sending your KYC data we have on file to the bank on the US side. In real time, they're verifying this. You'll then see the deposit details appear. Then you'll see for ACH, you will get a button to use a product called Plaid that'll connect you from your bank account into our system and basically do an instantaneous ACH transfer. For domestic wire, you'd be shown the wire information. If you buy or sell something on the exchange and end up getting USD and you want to withdraw it, then the first time you go through the withdrawal process, something similar. You will click, you will see terms of service inside the deposit window. You will agree to those, or withdrawal terms of service, I guess, terms of service in general when it comes to USD. You will agree to those, and then basically once agreed, your KYC information will be shared with that bank. bank will approve in real time, and then you'll be able to say withdraw, and we will process the withdrawal. That's essentially how it's going to work. When it launches, it looks, I don't know when I'm going to get this document. We've been waiting on it for more than a week, but we're pushing. I tend to think we're going to get it either today, and if not today, there's no reason we shouldn't get it early next week. As soon as we get it, that'll make it greenlit. And like I said, if it comes too late, too in the midst of next week, we will probably simply wait till the end of next week and roll out our new deposit flow, new withdrawal flow, and USD all at the same time. They've gained 87 ETH from the stunt by now. Still have 2 million old PRQ left. Again, it's abhorrent. I mean, we would never do something like that. We still have 8 million PRQ in our cold wallet, old PRQ. We haven't touched them, and we won't. And we still have even old PRQ in our hot wallets, and we haven't moved them, and we won't. You know, it's like if an individual did this, that lost, you know, their life savings, and they're trying to recoup 25, 30,000 US dollars or whatever it is at this point. You know, they're still doing something that they shouldn't, but you could stomach it to a certain extent. This is a company supposedly worth $250 million shitting on retail clients for 30,000 euro. That's, yeah. Will the recent loss affect marketing budget? Are you going to use funds from the budget to cover the quant loss? Not necessarily, no. So we've been in discussions with issuers, we've been in discussions with our investors, we've been in discussions with outside investors, we've been in discussions with lots of different parties to make sure that our users are kept whole. Obviously, liability for all this falls on CoinMetro's shoulders as a company. And so there's been no changes to anything else internally in the company aside from policies and you know, device management and all these things. But in terms of our roadmap, in terms of what we're going to do, in terms of our product rollout, in terms of money, you know, budgets for other resources, nothing's changed. We're going to move forward as we would have moved forward anyway, a little bit stronger, a little bit wiser, a little bruised maybe, a little bit of humility on the shoulder, I guess. But other than that, nothing changes. In fact, I think it's reinvigorated parts of the business. You know, complacency can be a tough thing to deal with, because over time, you know, complacency starts to roll in on a business, and we definitely, you know, got a kick in our gut over the past few days, which you know, in many aspects of the business, I think has pushed it even more forward. Like I said, it's something that I don't think ever should have happened, but it did. And it's a humbling experience when it does happen, because obviously I've talked about other hacks on here and talked about protocols and protocols and protocols, and literally this proved that, unfortunately or fortunately, that's absolutely correct, because what happened to us was about protocols that we had in place to a certain extent, but never thought. You know, it's hard to play that four-dimensional chess sometimes and be able to spot every possible way someone can infiltrate your organization. And even when you think you have some of those holes covered, occasionally there's always some nasty little additional you know, ability for someone to gain access to your system that you just didn't discover before. So I think for us, it's kind of, for me personally, to be honest, I look at it as at this point in our growth, it may look like an expensive lesson, but I think, to be honest, it's a rather inexpensive lesson, because had this happened a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, it could have been extremely worse. And we actually did a decent job once it was detected, stopping it. It could have been triple this, quadruple, hadn't we stepped in. So a lot of the stuff we had up worked. Some things we just never planned for, because, to be honest, I guess the problem with the community, with the crypto community, is, at least from the exchange side, I don't know what happened at Kucoin. I don't know what happened at Bitfinex or at Binance. I don't know what happened. I'm telling you, you know, we've I think already given more information on what happened on our side, in comparison to any hack I've ever seen, except for maybe those that went to court, like the MT Gox, for example, because they were forced to give information. And if exchanges were a bit more open about these things, I think we'd all be better for it, because we could all plan better. Because obviously we plan and plan and plan for things to happen, but that doesn't, trying to plan for everything can be difficult. So I think we have a relatively inexpensive lesson here that's going to help us in the long run. Sorry, I just missed my place here, guys. Give me a second. Here we go. All right, so it's a clarification, migrate to another country. Okay, hold on, we have a little bit more explanation. If I buy a coin bond, I decided to migrate to another country, would my CM bond be valid? So as long as you are resident in a country that isn't blacklisted by the EU or on the tax haven blacklist, for example, then it's fine. If you were to move to, North Korea, unfortunately, we can't service your account anymore, which means we would have to liquidate that bond, and that's it. You wouldn't be able to hold it on the system. We wouldn't be able to service your account. But as long as you migrate to any country that we can service, then there's no issue. Don't want to twist the knife, but to say it nicely, this was a wake-up call for you. I don't think you can afford this kind of setbacks. We're close to 3 years since ICO. I think I just explained that. And you can twist the knife as much as you want, guys. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. As CEO, it's my responsibility. In all actuality, essentially, it's my fault. And it's me that needs to fix it, with the help of my team, obviously. But it's me that needs to fix it. So, twist the knife all you want. Look, no company. Well, I can't say we can't afford it, because saying you can't afford it means if it were to happen again, or the fact we can't afford it now. I agree with you that any bad news is never a good thing, though publicity is never bad, even if it's not in the greatest of lights either. I'm not saying you want to get hacked to get publicity, but I think you're right that it's been 3 years. That's true, since ICO, or getting on 3 years. It's not yet. It's about 2.5 years since the end of the ICO, I think, because that was March. So roughly 2 years and 7 months, but yeah, almost 3 years. I think we've made lots of progress in that time. And in the last 3 months, we've made an extreme amount of progress, more progress than we probably made in the first year and a half, or even 2 years. In the last 3 months, we've eclipsed it. And so we're on a good path. This is a bump, and it's something that it's a learning experience. We've learned from it. We've made lots of corrections to amend what happened, plus adding in additional things as we started to search and said, well, we could probably secure this a little better. We could probably harden this a little bit better. We could probably do this. So we've already gone through and done even more to make sure that this type of attack, but also many other types of attacks, will be mitigated in the future. From a hardware standpoint, from an access standpoint, from a device standpoint, from an infrastructure standpoint, all over the place. So I agree with you 100%. And my DeLorean, my flux capacitor isn't working, so I can't go back in time and change some things, unfortunately. But I do think that we are primed for the future. If this were to, it would have been much worse if this were to happen a year from now. And I'm not trying to downplay it, because it's not like it's great now. But it would have been much worse in a year from now. So, Bob M, when will you fix the exchange UI? And another comment here, looks cheap. Hey, Bob. So I guess this question is a bit odd to answer, so I'll be diplomatic. We get a lot of comments about UI UX. Most for the exchange are positive. We do have a redux coming along for all our products, margin exchange, and that's coming up in the next, I think, into November, actually. But comments like this, while it's fine, it's an AMA, you can ask anything you want. You're asking when it'll be fixed. I don't know what you mean by fixed. You say it looks cheap. I don't really know what that means. And understand that your specific taste doesn't necessarily mean a better product. I don't mean that in any disrespectful way. My specific taste doesn't mean anything to make a better product. Any one individual's specific taste means nothing. Comparing yourself to other exchanges, I know that Binance may look different, and Binance and Bitstamp or whatever, they all may look the same or similar. That doesn't make it the best UI possible and the best user experience. because the first guys who made platforms simply took a very simplistic FX platform and used it as a base. When trading crypto is not the same as trading FX. So I don't think we currently have any platforms out there that are actually primed to be the platform. The problem, we have a very small market, very small penetration user base, very small amount of traders globally. So again, don't take this the wrong way, but if you can give us more information, if you want to go on Telegram and give a list of why you think it's ugly and where you see we can improve, we'll listen. And if something makes sense and we get other people agreeing to that same sentiment, and maybe other people have already complained about the same thing, it'll go into one of our next updates. You know, we love getting feedback like that because it helps us build a better product. But I don't like your exchange UI because it looks cheap is absolutely is worthless in terms of a comment, because I don't know what that means. I don't know how you think. Cheap to you might be, you know, fucking awesome to somebody else. So more information will be great, and you know, we'll take it under our wing and do something about it. Hey Kev, what's with the go with the stolen XCM? Would a token swap be on the cards? So we probably will do something similar to what PRQ did for one reason. Obviously, liquidity was pulled from Uniswap, so there's no other place you can trade XCM for the most part. So we don't have the same issue where there's another centralized exchange that may do a Poloniex on us, which I guess we're fortunate for. But we would like to add in these governance options. We're a centralized exchange with a utility token, adding in the option to be able to freeze, investigate, and pull back stolen funds to help out our clients should they ever lose their XCM from an external wallet, or if something were to happen again at CoinMetro, I think is a great feature. And so we want to add that feature. So Parsec has been willing to help us create this new smart contract, which would add in that governance feature. After that governance feature, we're also going to have some planned cool things. I would throw an emoji on the screen if I could right now, but let's say about, so anyway, we have some cool things planned. There'll be some more information about that coming out in the short term. So for that reason, we probably will do it. There's no rush for us to do it because we don't have this Poloniex and Uniswap issue that PRQ had. But we most likely will do it. And for now, there's really no issue because we can cover the stolen XCM in our treasury. So even if we didn't do the swap, it wouldn't, the XCM wouldn't affect anyone. You know, immediately it could be recovered from treasury. I remember you said that update on the mobile version was scheduled for October. The news about that is that it's a massive job, obviously, to get the new one completely out, simply because our UI UX designer on the team has been working on tram and rebates and all the restyling of all different pages and the dashboard and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So hasn't gotten to the point where they've been able to focus 100% full-time on mobile. We made some adjustments to the current mobile app, which I think are already a big improvement, that we plan to push out in October. Please tag me on Telegram and I'll get you some information on that. I was in a meeting yesterday, a little scrum meeting with all our development team and Oliver as well. And we touched on it, but to be honest, I don't have my notes in front of me and I don't remember exactly, but inside the roadmap, where that actually was going to take place. The complete redux is probably going to happen towards the end of the year, early next year, simply because we've added in, because of the bond and because of these other things and what we've been told is going to happen with the bond. We have people that are waiting for the bond, so we do expect to see a decent amount of influx of funds going into that bond. That's going to allow us to expand a bit on some other tasks that we wanted to do that weren't in the roadmap. And while the mobile app is obviously very important, if we had a 100% perfected web interface, we could easily have a very simplistic mobile app at first that we light years ahead of the current one that was simply using the mobile web interface. So I'll get you some information, but please tag me on Telegram with that, and I'll get back to you. How much does CM has lost after it got hacked? How much has CoinMetro lost? So our liability currently sits in the mid six-figure range. It was in the seven-figure range, and we've already been able to take off close to half, if not half, at this point. Actually, considering what we've been acquiring as far as pulling in coins and using other pieces of treasury, et cetera, I think we're probably past the halfway mark at this point. In terms of liability sits on our shoulders, or what basically is going to come out of our pocket, is in the mid 6-figure range. How will USD will USD be listed by end of October? By end of October for sure. I mean, I don't see this document from our provider taking a month to get to us. So I would say it's absolutely for sure. It's important for us to get USD live. We have investors looking to get into the bond through USD, and a substantial amount. So we're prime and ready to get that done. Like I said, technically speaking, it's ready to roll. So yes. Hi, Kevin. I presume CM will also reimburse PRQ users that were giving liquidity on Uniswap and lost ETH due to Poloniex sells. We actually haven't had a discussion with PRQ yet as to this specific point. I'm not sure that necessarily falls on us. Yes, we were hacked. I'll just use that word because I guess everybody is how they understand it. Yes, there were funds stolen from CoinMetro, which included PRQ. PRQ then made the decision, their decision. Obviously, we were included in those discussions, and but it was their decision in the end, and they decided to do the fork, and we're happy that they did that. I think it is the best solution in the end, to be honest. Long-term PRQ, it was the best decision. Poloniex then took it upon themselves to do what they did. I think that liability specifically lies with Poloniex. I know I say Poloniex, but whatever. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. So I haven't had a discussion with PRQ about this. There will be potentially some smaller liabilities that fall back on us from when PRQ went in and did their little white hack trick and pulled out all the liquidity from Uniswap before others added liquidity back in. And that's a relatively small liability. And that more than likely, because we were in agreement that that's what they would do. We're also in agreement that if something were to happen, but the Poloniex issue, I think that falls on them. You can say it wouldn't have happened if there wasn't a hack, but at some point, PRQ was going to do a swap. They were going to do it in the next couple months anyway, to add in these additional governance features. And I can't think that Poloniex would have acted any differently in 2 or 3 months. So, once a piece of shit, always a piece of shit. So I don't see it happening any different if it would have happened in 2 or 3 months. So, but as I said, this discussion hasn't been this hasn't been discussed. Simple as that. Our investors are on our side. They all think similarly to what I just described, in that, shit happens. In all business, shit happens. It's important to make sure shit doesn't happen. But no matter how much you do to stop bad things from happening, bad things are going to happen. In your own life, in business, whatever. Most important thing is that when they do happen, you learn, you move quickly, and you do the right thing. And grading ourselves collectively, CoinMetro collectively, and Parsec, to be quite honest, since this happened, I would say our grades are pretty high. I think we've done a good job of informing, trying to keep everybody informed on exactly what happened, what will happen, what the effects are, etc. Restoring withdrawals and everything within 48 hours, never taking fiat withdrawals down. Not going and dumping everybody's assets that are no longer of value to try and gain back some money. We didn't do any of that. And I think, so anyway, I haven't talked to all our investors. In fact, we have an investor call that was pre-scheduled for the 13th. So I'll have a shareholders meeting on the 13th. So next week you can ask me this again. But most of 99% was, you guys should have done this, but things happen. Glad that you did. Glad you've managed it how you've managed it, and we're still behind you. In fact, we're committing funds to the bond. In fact, we're committing new funds to the equity to purchase more equity, et cetera. So, on that, I guess on that side, they've been fully supportive. I guess, do I think it's going to have an effect? It's going to have some type of effect. because everything would have an effect. Everything has an effect on everything, right? There's always cause and effect. So there's definitely going to be an effect here, but I don't think it's going to be a substantial effect. In fact, I think it may even spur some of the individuals that were going to go into the bond to perhaps even go in at a higher level. In fact, one of our investors basically told us that they would now be placing some more money. One, just to support us, and two, to show that CoinMetro is strong, to show the kind of the world that our community is strong, that we got through this and we're better for it. So I think it will have an effect, but I don't think it's going to be a massive effect on the negative side. We're not focused on institutional money, Zuri. So, CoinMetro is a retail company. We focus on retail front-end clients. That doesn't mean we don't have, legal entities and institutionals. We have market makers. We have people that act as market makers without actually being official market makers on the site. We do provide some services to some corporates, et cetera. So, but our main focus is retail. And I know that lots of people like this, well, the institutional market's so huge, blah, 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 blah. But without a retail market, a healthy one, the institutional market just simply doesn't exist. So I think the retail market is still very underserved. The service generally in crypto is terrible. The interaction, the communication is usually terrible. Companies like we've seen with now I'll stop naming the name of the exchange, with PRQ, are absolutely abhorrent and do things that in any market would be punishable by severe fines and maybe even jail time, and they don't care. And they have no problem with people knowing about it. And I think that we're different. We're different in many ways. And while we might not have seen the same massive growth spurts that they saw back in 2017, 18, we've seen a 5x growth just from doing very small tweaks in some marketing tests between August and September. And I think that we're primed, I think, to take over a decent size of the market share because we're different. So we're not necessarily targeting institutions. That doesn't mean if they come, we're going to say no. But our company, or the core of our company, is to provide better services to retail, to everyday people, not institutions. Hey, Bob. Yeah. Bob, I wish you could come to the office one day and just sit down and see, get on some of the calls that I get on with banks, with regulators, with central banks, and just see how those companies, corporates, and everything operate, and understand how, while it may be funny, that debit card, we said debit cards and it's been X amount of time. But if you knew the amount of effort that we put to get those things get ready on our side, only to have misinformation, only to have something change, only to have bad communication, only to get literally 7 different answers from 4 different people, I think you would change your tune a little bit. It's amazing how poorly relatively large corporations, government agencies can be run, and how bad the internal communication and how bad internal messaging can be even in those entities, where you receive multiple different responses, or simply receive responses as questions instead of answers. So yeah, it's institutional money is not our focus. Debit cards are, and they will happen. But unfortunately, we can't just snap our fingers and make it happen. We could be like other companies, go and spend $250,000 to a company like Wirecard back in the day, or Qantas, or something that will be expensive, take the majority of the income that comes from those cards, and then we hold the risk that we may potentially be bundled up with 15 or 20 or 30 or 50 other corporate clients that do crypto, and at some point get all our cards shut off. Rather than do that, we're trying to do it where we're the only company on a specific rail that allows those cards. That means that the onerous is on us, and as long as we act in the right way, as long as we're acting in a correct manner, we don't run those risks. And that may take more time, and it may take more diligence, and it may take more frustration. But in the end of the day, it's the only way to do it. Where can I get background? Where can I get the background image? Hey, Andre, send me a DM and let me know what you want to use it for. and maybe I'll send you a copy. So send that direct message to me on Telegram at Kevin MURCKO. Can you tell us about these Australian super funds investing in XCM? Are they self-managed? Yep, they're self-managed. In fact, I think super funds are all self-managed, if I'm not mistaken. I guess you could probably hand your super fund over to an advisor, but in this case, they're all self-managed. 6 to 7 figure super funds from Australia, self-managed. The fact that you were here doing this AMA gives me high hopes and confidence for CoinMetro. I really dig the shirt. So I was waiting for somebody to mention the shirt. So this is a new one. Let me show you guys this. So it actually says CoinMetro. There you go. So yeah, I actually got a shipment today. I've been waiting on it. So this is a new one. It's actually a decent. It's a nice kind of licorice, cottony, sporty kind of fabric. I don't know. I feel like I'm on an infomercial now. Anyway, appreciate that. Sorry, I knocked you off. Appreciate that, Elsie. Really do. And yeah, I told you that I would be doing these from the beginning till the end. When we're bigger than Kucoin, when we're bigger than Binance, whenever, I'll still be sitting here doing Friday AMAs. Again, sometimes I miss a Friday. Sometimes I miss a Wednesday for news. Stuff happens. But this is part of our brand, I think. Part of our brand is being open to our clients, communicating, and being transparent. And that's not going to change over the course. How do you plan on getting more users, volume, attraction to CoinMetro? Well, that plan hasn't. It's just awareness, to be quite honest. We've done enough tests where we understand that when we put something out there, people do sign up. When they do sign up, they convert. When they convert, they do deposit. When they deposit, they do trade. Again, we 5x'd our revenue, guys, from August to September. I'm sorry, from July to August, and then maintained roughly the same amount in September, even though we weren't running the same promotions. So not only have we brought in new clients, but we also maintain. We're also keeping clients active. So I think, you don't want to. It's easy to get into this rut that, we're not yet the biggest. We're not in the top 10, and it's because we don't have USD. We don't have this. When this happens, it's going to be great. When we get USD, that's going to be the big change. When we get the Invest platform, that's going to be the big change. Even before all that, just having SEPA in the EU and Euro trading pairs, there's not many providers that provide that. That alone, look at Bitpanda. They just got another 52 million Series A. Is Bitpanda that much better than CoinMetro? Absolutely not. Are their products better than ours? No. Do they even have do they have products we don't? Not really. They have a few things that that with marketing they make sound nice, like automatic Bitcoin buys. That's essentially just a limit order that sits in the book and pulls off of their Euro balance. We have copy trading. They don't. We're about to have USD. They don't. We have an Invest platform. They don't. So it's just about awareness. So really it's about ramping up on things we know work. And the bonds coming out, as we start to see influx in from that bond, we are going to start actively pushing more and more money into advertising. We actually have a meeting today at 5 o'clock here in the office, about an hour, with one of our partners that we use, one of our advertising partners we used during the token sale, which was responsible for about 4 to 5 million of monies that rolled into CoinMetro during that time through social media advertising. So anyway, look, guys, that's just one of many people we've talked to, many things that we're doing, just to give you an example. So it's all about awareness. That's it. You don't need it. It's nothing magic about it. The more people that see it, the more times people see it, the more you can retarget users. The more a user will see CoinMetro, they come and visit. And the website we have now, the dashboard, the process, while we're still fine tuning, new KYC is coming as well. We're going to fine tune that down from I think 13 clicks to roughly 8, I think. So all those things together, even now where it is, our conversion rates are near industry standard, and they're going to be higher than industry standard once we get through the next updates. So does the liability for stolen funds change anything about the internal CM valuation for the bond? No. No, it doesn't. At the end of the day, if you're talking about valuation at the end in terms of when you convert to equity, no, because that happens in 2 years. And in 2 years, those funds would have been repaid. Thus, there would be no liability. If there's liability on the books when that equity is then, let's say, converted, then that's definitely a conversation we will have to see if we need to add in additional. But I don't see that. That liability is not going to be there in 2 years. I don't even see how it would be there in 2 years, but if it was, that would be a conversation to have then. But right now, no, it wouldn't make any difference. Kucoin hot wallets were hacked, keys were hacked and lost 200 million. Binance also lost a significant amount. Why do exchanges keep such large amounts when not needed for daily operations? I already mentioned this, and it's complacency, I think, for the most part. Again, protocols. I say this a million times. And where we failed on that protocol, to be quite honest, was quant. It was a failure on our end. We shouldn't have been holding that amount, comparatively speaking, to the entire amount we had on deposit inside of our hot wallet. It was a failure on our part, for sure. Everything else, though, I think was generally within the realm of what it should have been. Though where the failure from us came was really the wallets that have API access. While some of them had some very strict triggers, other did not. Anyway, all that's been amended, and now there's lots of manual processing that needs to happen, but there's also lots of automatic triggers and automatic like shutdown valves that happen based on many factors. There's also 2FA has been added all over the place. We had it on most accounts, but in the admin panel, because it had to come through a VPN that had 2FA, it wasn't added directly to the admin panel. Now it's added not only to login, not only the logins get closed after inactivity for a very short amount of time, but also on every operation an admin does inside there, they require 2FA. So anyway, I think it's complacency for the most. It's protocol, protocol either not there, not being followed, and then even if the protocol's there, it's like, we're safe. Nobody's ever going to get into us, so the monies aren't being moved. You know, because to be honest, when you're trying to keep up with withdrawals, if you know that, let's say you have a cold wallet and the cold wallet's accessed by 3 signatures, maybe the 3 owners of the company. One guy, I don't know, lives in the Bahamas, the other guy lives in China, and the other guy's in, I don't know, Hong Kong, and they all have different schedules. And then they're like, man, because then what if we have a big withdrawal and then we piss off a client? So they just end up leaving it in the hot wallet. Things like that. Again, it's also because when something like this happens, everybody blames the exchange, which is, it is. It's the exchange's fault. Okay, but when they go to make a withdrawal 3 weeks later or a year later, and it takes an hour to process or 6 hours to process because it has to come from a cold wallet, then they're like, what's going on? This exchange sucks. Why can't I get my money? I need my money now. I want to arbitrage. So, there's always a give and take. And I think exchanges many times are going to opt for, they get complacency and they say, well, nothing's going to happen. Plus, we want to make sure that nobody has to wait because we don't want people going and emailing us to say they're waiting for withdrawals. The problem with Binance and other exchanges I find is that they put butt ugly and they are butt ugly and cluttered up to hell. I personally really like CoinMetro UI. I agree. I think when I looked at the first, and I come from a trading background, I've seen UIs that would literally keep you up at night with fucking nightmares. You'd be shivering in your bed, thinking the boogeyman was going to come eat you after looking at this UI. I mean, absolutely nightmarish. Tons of data that there's so much data you don't even know what to look at. But for certain traders, Bloomberg Terminal, all this good stuff, they like to see that stuff. They want to be able to see the VIX and compare it and compare it to the Dow and then compare that to the Euro USD they have open and then correlate that maybe to their Bitcoin position and then see all the news that comes up on Bitcoin and see the Twitter sentiment, see the sentiment over here. They want to see all that data. In fact, they need to see all that data. It's all part of their trading plan. But for normal people, they don't even know what that data is. And the more data on the screen, the fact somebody says, well, it's standard in crypto to have this button there. What does standard in crypto mean? Crypto isn't even a standard yet. Like, we don't even have a standard for the underlying asset, never mind for how the asset should be traded. If you think it's a currency, if you think Bitcoin is a store of value or a currency, why would you trade it as if it was a commodity or a stock? It doesn't make any sense. So I agree with you. I think most people that will come to the crypto markets are going to want to see something that's more equivalent to like an eBay style UI almost, or something or even like an Instagram, something that is more visual representation of what they're doing and where it's easy to find stuff and there's not so much stuff that they don't want to use. It might be there and they can find it if they're so inclined, but they don't need it. So yeah, I fully agree with you. I think lots of that stuff is overkill. Why is it even possible to do what the hacker did from the admin panel front end? Well, it's not possible. It's not that they gained access to our admin panel. They gained access to a computer that had access to the admin panel. Simple as that. So computer was left on. Seems to be, we still have, forensics still needs to go through the computer, so we don't have the full report yet. But from what it looks like, there was a Trojan. Trojan came in some way. It could have come in physically, though so far that doesn't look like that's the way it happened. Probably from some PDF or an exploited Word doc, who knows? We will find out, and we will let you guys know. When that happened, the Trojan was on the computer. That could have happened 10 days ago. It could have happened a year ago. It could have happened 2 years ago. We don't know yet. Obviously, there was some type of alert system between that RAT, which is a remote access terminal, and the hacker themselves. So they knew when the computer went idle. When the computer went idle and it was still on, they were able to then go in. It could also have a keylogger, which means it could see the keys. The finance panel on that specific computer and the admin panel was closed. But because no VPN was needed, because it was on a whitelisted IP address, the office, someone was able to go in, open up the panel, and actually gain access. And because they had admin rights, they were able to approve and manually approve transactions. That's what happened. Every single thing I just said, every hole that exists has already been patched. 2FA, no whitelisted IP addresses, VPN needed for everything, 2FA on VPN, which was already there. 2FA required for every single change that happens. No single admin having full admin rights on the entirety of the system, meaning compliance, finance, and manual approvals, for example. So multiple admins needed to make those things happen, multiple 2FA. So it wasn't an intrusion into our system. It wasn't an intrusion into our front end. It was an intrusion into a computer that was left on, that had a Trojan in it, that was then able to gain access through stored passwords, etc. Give me a second, guys. I'm going to catch up with some of these. Any new coin listings coming soon? We have a few. We have a few in the pipeline, actually. Rather than, because we have a lot more questions and I want to try to get through all of them. So rather than trying to think right now with me, there's about 4 or 5 that we're looking at. Tag me on Telegram and we'll discuss it there at Kevin MURCKO. After Kucoin hack, lots of tokens perform swaps to prevent dumps. Do you think this is how future hacks will be fought? I think it should be a part of it. In fact, I think most tokens that would have performed that swap should probably add in some of those governance terms. If you're a decentralized company or your company's focused on decentralization, adding in centralized governance might not be the thing that you want to do. But I think most utility tokens are centralized and they should have that governance option. I do think having that makes a lot of sense because it's not going to, our unfortunate incident isn't going to be the last one that happens in crypto. I think it's going to be the last one that happens here. But it's not going to be the last one that happens in crypto, and assets are vulnerable. So I would say that it would make sense. I think maybe, it doesn't mean that this exactly is going to be what the future is, but I think it's part of what the future will be. Part of what the future will be the ability to, in traditional finance, if someone steals your money and they withdraw it in cash, you're never getting it back. In this case, even if someone withdraws it in cash, because that's the token, right? But it's sitting somewhere on a wallet, you can reverse it. It's in their wallet. Literally, they're walking around the city with their wallet with your cash in it. And you click a button, not necessarily a button, but you get my point. And the cash is going out of their wallet back in yours. I think that's something that most utility tokens, especially those that have centralized systems, it makes absolute sense for them to add. So I think it will be part of the future, even though it's obviously going to change over time. But I think that the ability to do that, especially once you start, at first it might be, let's say for XCM, CoinMetro's ability to do that. So the governance sits with CoinMetro. But over time, with smart contracts, we can actually put some of that governance out on token holders as well. So maybe CoinMetro has a vote, which is, I don't know, X%, but Y% is needed to actually pass. And thus token holders are asked whether they believe as well these tokens should be returned. And there's a vote, which actually adds in some form of non-centralized governance as well, which also could be part of the future. Yeah, that's the understatement of the year, Giancomo. We absolutely do. But for that, we need a larger budget. That's why the bond. That's partially why the bond. And it's irresponsible to do marketing at a larger scale before you know that your metrics work, before you know that spending X amount gives you Y amount. If you're spending 100 euros to get a client that makes you 30 euros, and you spend $1 million to then get 10,000 clients, which makes you 300,000 euros, doesn't make any sense. That's a bad decision. So we've been painstakingly over the last months finding what works for us. So when the budget is increased, we can do that large-scale marketing. Yes, it's an understatement of the year. We absolutely need more marketing. No, well, we raised 1.44 million euro in December. Well, November last year, we got it in December last year, but it wasn't just for marketing. It was for operations as well, because at that point, our operations fund was also depleted. So at roughly 150,000 euros a month, a little bit more than that actually, it's under 10 months. That would have been 9 months worth of runway. We've made it 11 months. So obviously we have brought in some revenue. Obviously we have done some test marketing, but yeah, we still knew that we needed to do some refinements, and it takes time to get those refinements done. But look, as a tech company, as a fintech company, even massive companies do fundraisers. I mean, Bitpanda isn't massive, but Bitpanda just raised 30 million a while back. Now they just raised 50. It's not necessarily because they need that money to run their operations or anything. It's just simply that there's always need for additional capital. And if you can get additional capital at a better valuation, you're basically adding value to your shareholders. So it's going to be something that we do more than once, twice, or 3 times. We will be raising capital over and over again. The first time you raise capital, this was essentially a seed round. ICO was pre-seed, this was seed, and now the next round we go is going to be an A round, and then a B round, then a C round, then a D round, then an E round. We're going to raise multiple rounds, and we're going to grow with those rounds. Adding governance and freeze option, we already have in USDT, now PRQ and XM will get it also. Isn't that centralization of blockchain, and wouldn't that defeat Satoshi's ideas? Yeah, I guess it defeats Satoshi's ideas. But was Satoshi's idea a centralized exchange with a utility token? Probably not. So we probably already defeated his ideas. Was his idea, he didn't even talk about utility tokens. His idea was essentially internet money. XCM isn't internet money. XCM is a utility token that allows people access and rewards based on how they interact with an ecosystem. And it's centralized. So it's not traded anywhere else anywhere. It doesn't hold any value anywhere. So if someone loses their tokens to someone else, that person, the only thing they can do is come back to us. So our ability to quickly freeze, check, and then pull those tokens back makes our clients happy in our centralized ecosystem. So I don't think it has anything to do with Satoshi. In fact, I don't think Satoshi's white paper or Bitcoin plays so much of a role in most of what happens in crypto, to be honest. And USDT is another story. USDT, there's a lot of things with USDT I don't like, and obviously neither does the New York State Attorney General, apparently. So that's a whole other story. But I think for a centralized product, one that's using this as a payment option, a rewards option, and an access option, it makes sense because it protects the end user. Give me a second. Scrolling. What are your thoughts on the owner of Poloniex, Justin's son? Are his methods of involvement in his own coin might be called a scam? I think he's a piece of shit. I mean, that's it. I think I already mentioned that. But, maybe it wasn't him that pushed the button. Maybe, he probably doesn't manage day-to-day business, right? He probably doesn't do anything, to be quite honest. So maybe it's not him, but it's his image. He's the brand. He's part of that brand. And for them to do what they did, to recoup such a small amount of money on the backs of retail traders, whether they knew what they were doing or not, is meaningless. Is absolutely a shitty move. I mean, it's terrible. And if there was any regulation applied to that company, the regulators would act swift, and there would be massive fines and potentially even criminal charges. So I think it's terrible. And I've seen a lot of stories about Justin's son. Never met the guy in person. But I've read a lot of stories, and they all seem to be the same. He's out there, for himself. He does things that, make his wallet bigger. Doesn't really care about anybody else. And okay, being cutthroat in business is one thing. To a certain level, that can be respectable, depending on, you can be cutthroat and not an asshole. All right, actually, I should put that another way. You can be cutthroat and not criminal. And then you can be cutthroat and just a low individual. So there's 2 differences there. But I don't know if Tron can be called a scam in general. To be honest, I don't know anything about Tron. I've never even looked at it. I did see it at some point. I think I saw their white paper at some point around their ICO. I never paid attention to it. And I can't, again, it seems like crypto tends to reward the worst possible elements of the industry, which is crazy. But that's going to change over time, trust me. So yeah, I don't know if the token's a scam. I don't know if Justin Sun pushed the button. I don't know if he gave the directive to what happened. I doubt he did. I don't think he plays a role in the business at all, to be honest. I don't know where he would. I think his strong suit is probably more in marketing. So I don't think he plays a role in operations. But again, it's his company. So, absolute abhorrent move. Terrible move on their part. Yeah, it's been considered. I think in this current round, we still have 3.56 to raise from that original 5 million plus the bond. So that puts us at 7.5 already. Or sorry, in total. But it puts us at slightly over 6 million, I think, in terms of what is still kind of on the table currently. You were speaking as if XCM lost aren't a big deal. I'm sorry, but that's not true. If the hackers sell them on Uniswap for a low price to anybody willing to get them, the new owner of this token, half. Oh, 1 out of 2. Okay, hold on. We'll be able to sell them on CM, thus dumping the price. They won't be able to sell them on CM because deposits are going to be manually checked. So if we get a deposit that comes from Uniswap and we can see that it came from the Uniswap contract, then we don't allow it. And then we email the client and then we find out from their history how that was actually, what happened. If they're the victim, that's one thing. But once we do the token swap, we will annihilate the old contract. Right now, there's zero liquidity on Uniswap because we pulled it. And well, we didn't have it, but our clients did. And we asked them to pull it. It was pulled. It's less than 1/1000th of a penny right now. So there's nothing that can happen outside of CoinMetro right now unless there's some random OTC deal between parties. But he can't sell on Uniswap, and there's no other venue he can sell right now. So I don't think it's the same situation. At one point, regulation will kick in and Binance and Tron will face some charges. What do you think will happen to BNB token? Well, again, it's all based on market price. Now, for centralized tokens, though, if the government were to place charges and get a hold of the contract, they could nullify it. So they could swap it and then swap it into some, there's things they could do. I don't know the specific details of the BNB contract or the TRX contract, so I don't want to get into that, but I think potentially they probably wouldn't go to zero, but their value would be extremely hurt for sure. Thank you, Wannabe. I appreciate that. Always try to maintain healthy. As I get older, man, I've learned how to deal with stress. Younger Kevin, well, this is what happens. But yeah, younger Kevin might have acted in a different way, but you learn how to deal with stress. Simple as that. Actually, at the same time that this was happening, there was a hurricane headed towards Mexico, where my daughter is, in a home I own in Cancun, which I thought was going to be destroyed. So it was, it was stress coming from all corners, but life goes on. You are still my favorite CEO, and CM is my favorite company. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Even if I poke you from time to time, poke me all you want, man. Spin the knife, poke me, kick me, do what you want. Like I said, I'm a big boy. I can take it. And to be honest, I'd rather have AMAs with real, raw questions rather than everybody just cheerleading. Getting pats on the back is great, and everybody likes it. And it definitely helps through times like these to know that our community is behind us. It feels nice. It's nice to know that we have, clients and community members that are there for us. It's fucking fantastic. But at the same time, I'm all about as well getting, I want people to tell me the truth. If something's bothering them, if they really want to get something off their chest, get it off your chest, man. I'll answer it. I don't shy away from any questions. So did you end up stronger? But I think we did, to be quite honest. I think over time, this is going to be something that's going to shape the future of CoinMetro, and we will be stronger for it. And I don't see how we couldn't be, because the fact that we fixed what happened already makes us stronger. The fact that when bad things happen, human beings tend to come together. And that's what we're seeing here. Our team, our community, we're coming together to get this thing fixed and move on. So Hey Kev, everyone asked if we're going to make it. Just wanted to say that you are going to make it too. Appreciate that, Saul. Again, love to see the community come out and give and just some words of encouragement are always nice to see. So it's been pushed basically to the 22nd, and that's simply because we ate up 5 business days this week to get back on track. So pushed to the 22nd. And since it hasn't been asked yet, any biz dev news? Well, this week, not really, man, because this week has been, well, I guess the Parsec thing was biz dev. So we had a meeting with Parsec. But yeah, everything else was kind of paused for the past week. I missed a few calls here and there that I was supposed to have, and I got to follow up with those guys. So not much on the biz dev side this week. Definitely we'll have some more next week, though. We are not able to safely reverse your pre-swap Parsec trades. Instead, we ask that you reply to this email with an internal pre-swap, and so that we can credit your pre-swap tokens back to you. I guess this is Poloniex. Yeah, it just shows that they don't want to do the work, and they just want to throw the liability off on their clients, which again is absolutely abhorrent, to be honest. It's terrible. It's ridiculous. Okay. Are there going to be tiered incentives on the CM bond, like invest 500 for being mentioned on the page, or 1,000 to get a shirt? Well, there already are, like, based on where you sit, if you're an ICO holder or what tier you're in terms of rebates, XCM tiers, then you get higher interest. So that's definitely one thing. But yeah, I think we've been looking into the possibility of doing something like this, like, and I think, yeah, we probably will. Why not? We'll think about how we can add that in. It might not be there like day one because, well, it won't be automated. So it could be there day one, but it's not like your t-shirt's going to go into the mail as soon as your bond purchase is done. But I think we can probably do something like that. If it's something that people want to see, I'm pretty sure we can do it. It's been a little bit over an hour, guys. I think I've run to the bottom of the questions here that I see. I'm going to wait a few minutes here, see if anybody else has any additional questions. Go ahead and shoot them out, and we'll discuss them. If there aren't any more questions, I'd have to say I appreciate everybody for coming. I appreciate, this is a rough time for everybody. Nobody likes uncertainty. I think we've kind of filled the uncertainty gap. There was maybe a 12-hour period or 12, 13-hour period on the day that this occurred, that literally we were all management was sitting in the same room, just trying to get things done, and nobody was paying attention to Telegram because we were just focused everywhere else. So, but outside of that, I think we filled that gap. I'm glad to see people showing up here and asking questions. Like I said, ask the questions you want to ask. Don't be afraid to ask a question. I'm not going to get pissed. I'm not going to block you. I'm not going to close down your account. I'm not going to, ban you on Twitter. You ask what you want to ask, and I'll answer it. I could not be in today's AMA, but I only want to write that you handled this hack perfectly. Just compare what you did to what Poloniex did. CoinMetro is the best. Hey, Brian, appreciate that. I don't know if we handled it perfectly. I don't think I'd give myself a perfect score. If it was a perfect score, then I guess this never would have happened. But the handling of it, still, I wouldn't say it was perfect, but I think we banded together. We did the best we could. I think the most important thing is that, we do the best for our clients. We are a centralized exchange, a broker, whatever you want to call us. We need to protect our clients. And, when there's a failure in us doing that, like someone getting access to a computer or whatever, then it's on us to make that right. And I think that's what we're doing. And I think that's the most important thing I can say after all of this. Yeah, thumbs up, guys, please. I would appreciate it. Why haven't you sent a voice message when it happened? Well, first of all, I didn't know what happened initially. I knew something happened, but I didn't, taking the time to send a message, then maybe getting stuck in Telegram rather than making sure we eliminated any other possible holes, because at first, we didn't know how the person got in. Thus, he could be somewhere else. It could be in other computers. It could be in other employees' computers that are sleeping with their computer on and a Trojan. So we had very little information. It took us about 6 hours to get most of the information that we currently have. And then it took us another 6 or 7 hours to basically patch and get things fixed so that we could sit down, breathe, and write a statement. And I think I like to do voice messages, but they're more personalized to me, et cetera. But they're not. This needed a statement. This needed a written statement, clear mind, written statement, and that's why it took. It had nothing to do with trying to hide anything, because we didn't hide anything. It was simply that the situation, I think, deemed that we needed a written statement, and it took time to get there. While this was an inevitable and unfortunate event, CM and your good self have invoked great confidence in the exchange and its products. Good job, open and transparent. Again, very much appreciate that, Fergus. Hats off to you, my friend. I very much appreciate it. What would you do if you were in? I wouldn't have done what they did, first of all, but I would take ownership for the dump. I would reimburse all those people that we dumped on. And I would come out with a mea culpa, a statement that says we did the wrong thing, that we didn't think it through, and what we did was wrong, and we realized that. And to correct that, we're going to do this, this, and that. I don't see them doing that, though, unfortunately. And the fact now that they're returning old PRQ because they can't reverse trades, it simply means either that their system is so bad that they don't have the logs to be able to go back and adjust those trades, or two, they do, and they don't want to take the time to do it because they simply don't care. Either one of those is bad. Yep, I agree. Thanks, Kevin. Hope you're doing these AMAs even when CoinMetro reaches. I will. You have my word that as I sit as the CEO of CoinMetro, and no matter how large CoinMetro grows, there will be AMAs. They may go from weekly to bi-weekly. Maybe they go monthly at some point. Maybe I miss one or two here or there when they're weekly. I don't, things happen. But, I think this is a big part of our brand, and it should remain a part of our brand. It helps me stay in touch with my clients, which I think is ultra important. It helps clients get clear answers right from the top, so there's no ambiguity. That doesn't mean I don't make a mistake sometimes, because everybody makes mistakes. But I think it's ultra important, and I see no reason to stop. There was some XCM panic selling margin calls possibly. I think this could be prevented with some more info, at least disabling margin. That's true. You're right about that. I would agree to that 100%. We kept trading open simply because we didn't want to cause additional panic, which may have led to an additional, people going outside of CoinMetro and saying something happened, which could have led to much more exposure for something that generally was handled, I think, in a relatively decent amount of time. So you're right. That is something we could have done. And we've actually gotten a few people that have contacted us about that, and we're dealing with those individually. You can always contact our support and get escalated up to finance and management if something like that happened. I think generally speaking for XCM though, really what happened is, the book was thinned, and thus there was small amounts of trades that caused movement in the XCM book. But feel free to contact us if you feel that it's warranted. You need a fork and a knife to eat it. Usually comes with potatoes. I guess that's the new XCM utility. When is the Q4 roadmap? It's already been released. If you look on our updates channel on Telegram, you'll find it. I think it was released last week, or even the week before last, not sure, but it's there. So it's there. So anyway, guys, I'm gonna call it short here. I got another call. I got another meeting in 45 minutes, and I have a few things I need to tidy up before then. So I appreciate everybody. I think I got through all the questions. I don't think I missed any. If I missed any, or if you have a question between now and whenever, or you watch this at a later date and you have a question, you can tag me on Telegram at Kevin MURCKO. You can tweet me at Kevin MURCKO on Twitter. As I always say, spend time with friends and family. If you're stressed out, if you had a stressful week like we did here, try to relax over the weekend, pull yourself away from a screen for a while, spend time with friends and family, talk to some friends, play some sports. I don't know, do whatever you got to do to de-stress. As you're de-stressing, as you're doing yoga at the gym and you're in your downward facing dog pose, just say to yourself over and over again in a nice humble voice, XCM, XCM. And that's it, guys. Have a great weekend. See you guys next Friday. Again, see you guys in Telegram as well. Tag me there if you have any questions. Appreciate every single one of you. I really honestly do. And onwards and upwards, guys. Thanks for helping us through this tough situation. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that everyone is rewarded for their help and assistance by doing the best I can to make CoinMetro a huge success. So thank you, guys. And have a great weekend. Cheers.